Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Tensions are building at British borders as thousands of trucks remain stranded following travel bans from most European countries. Greg Palcott has more.
We want to go back. We want to go home.
Plenty of anger and frustration as thousands of truck drivers remain stranded at British borders. More than 24 countries have put travel bans or restrictions in place following a new COVID-19 strain that emerged in southern England. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says food and medicine shipments are not being impacted. And while he says he understands the anxiety over the new strain, closed borders are not the answer.
We believe the risks of transmission by a solitary driver sitting alone in the cab are really very low.
There's been a major spike in cases in and around London since the strain was discovered, but early reports that it could be up to 70% more contagious are being disputed by some health officials on both sides of the Atlantic, who point out this isn't the first time the virus has mutated.
We've seen literally thousands of mutations of the coronavirus. It's what these viruses do. It does not appear that this strain is any more severe.
Another big concern, will the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine just approved in the US, UK, and EU be effective against the new variant? The company says more study is needed, but it should work because the proteins are a 99% match to the previous strain.
Scientifically, it is highly likely that the immune response by this vaccine also can deal with the new virus variants.
Public health officials in the U.S. say that they believe the new strain has already traveled overseas, making a travel ban from the U.K. unlikely. In London, Greg Palcott, Fox News.
The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are now both rolling out across the country. Matt Kleindienst is in Corning talking with some local residents about the progress with the vaccines.
Good evening. As Americans begin getting their first COVID shots, one resident I spoke with remains optimistic that the vaccines will end the pandemic soon.
It's finally looking like there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
With 2 vaccines approved for emergency use, the first wave of Americans are lining up for their first doses. The vaccine release gives Sean Lukasik optimism about where we're heading entering the new year.
It's exciting to know that people are starting to get vaccinated and that we've got some target numbers to hit in terms of vaccination percentage that we can look forward to hitting hopefully at some point this summer.
With health and political leaders getting their first doses, Sean sees that as a positive message for those who still may be skeptical of the vaccine.
The people who are in the spotlight and who are leaders in this community and in this country should be setting the example and showing people that it's safe and reliable and that it's time to get the vaccine.
He's eager to get the vaccine and hopes other residents will trust that the vaccine is safe as more people get it.
It's been cleared by our own country's FDA, and it's been cleared to be safe for everyone. If people are hesitant, I know that there'll be millions of more people getting the vaccine, and we'll have lots of examples.
Reporting from Corning, Matt Kleindienst, Big Fox, WYDC.
Americans are on the verge of getting some help from Congress. The $900 billion relief bill that Congress has been battling over for weeks is on the verge of being sent to President Trump's desk for a signature. John Lawrence has more.
Shortly before midnight on Monday, a major accomplishment.
Stars aligned in the sky tonight, and I think that's an important symbol of what happened on the Senate floor, that we passed a $900 billion relief package.
The bill includes stimulus checks for many making below $75,000 a year and roughly $284 billion in small business loans. It also promises money for vaccine distribution.
None of us think any of this legislation is perfect. But a big bipartisan majority of us recognize the incredible amount of good it will do when we send it to the president's desk.
The Senate's vote came a few hours after the House passed the legislation.
It is a good bipartisan bill. It addresses the food needs of the American people. Maybe 15 million children are food insecure in our country.
The House's approval came after both sides relinquished demands, with Democrats giving up about $160 billion in aid for struggling states and cities, and Republicans dropping their push for liability protections.
We should have done this, weeks and weeks ago. It's just another problem where the system's broken that we all need to just put some of our partisan stripes aside sometimes.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
The Archbishop of New York says getting a COVID-19 vaccine is an act of charity for others. Cardinal Timothy Dolan made those comments today while visiting the Abraham House in the Bronx for Christmas. He was there greeting and giving gifts to day laborers who participate in Catholic Charities community services training programs, as well as Abraham House residents who are re-entering the community following their release from Rikers Island.
We have the common good is an extraordinarily compelling moral drive for Christians, for followers of Jesus, for others as well, our Jewish neighbors. And so when we get a vaccine, not only are we protecting ourselves, we're putting an end to this and we're protecting others. So it is an act of charity. It's an act of self-respect, and it's an act of charity for others.
No word on when Cardinal Dolan himself might be up for a vaccination. Southern California's stay-at-home order was scheduled to end next week, but the governor says that order will probably be extended as hospitals, doctors, and medical staff struggle to handle a crushing new surge of cases since Thanksgiving. Sarah Sidner reports.
Nurse Cliff Resurrection is preparing for battle against the insidious, invisible enemy he and his colleagues have been fighting for months. COVID-19 is now sending so many people to the hospital in California, there are no more intensive care unit beds open here at Harbor UCLA Medical Center. So they've moved coronavirus patients into the emergency room. Some are so sick, they're hooked up to no less than 8 IVs, pumping in vital medicines to save or soothe them.
Very exhausting, it's really like a never-ending struggle. It's really tough right now.
Before his shift started, Nurse Resurrection learned one of his COVID-19 patients had died. The patient had no family visits and no breath left to say goodbye.
Unfortunately, he has no family. This patient had no family able to come and see him, and it's very sad around the holiday season for everyone involved.
Everyone here has been exposed to the trauma of loss over and over again, but the patients just keep coming.
What's it like right now for your staff?
It's a disaster right now for our staff. The patients are extremely sick. This is a horrible disease. I hope I won't cry because it's been 10 months of this, and we are inundated.
They can't send patients out to other hospitals in Los Angeles County because in the most populated county in America, there is not a single licensed ICU bed open. All 2,500 are full. At last count, all of Southern California had 0 ICU capacity. 0.
And there's no break. There's absolutely no break. And even during July, it wasn't so bad. But this time, we're seeing large numbers.
Nancy Blake says this is so much worse than the first 2 surges of the virus because now they're getting their normal amount of emergency patients plus a large number of coronavirus cases. In the past 2 weeks, California has seen a 63% increase in hospitalizations, and in just one day, around 40,000 new infections were reported. This as 98% of the state is under a stay-at-home order. That is clearly not what is happening.
What effect does that have on your staff?
They're angry because at the very beginning, it was people were, saying nurses are heroes and great job, and now they're not listening to us. They're not wearing their masks. They're saying it's a hoax. And I have to say, I'm a glass half full kind of person. My glass is empty right now.
You'll remember in New York at the beginning of the pandemic when they had refrigerated trucks because they needed space for bodies. Well, now at this hospital, they have the same thing, and this one has just been turned on. But amidst the signs of suffering, there were signs of hope. Healthcare workers lining up to get their first dose of the vaccine, each sending a message as to why they're getting inoculated. The first day it arrived, the mood soared, but soured by the afternoon as more patients crushed into the emergency room.
Are you okay?
No, it's the worst I've ever seen. I've been a nurse for 40 years, and it's the worst I've ever seen. And some of the things these nurses are seeing, where their patients are dying, there's no family member, so they're holding that patient's hand, or they're on the other side of an iPad where the family's crying.
A restaurant in Elmira is picking up the pieces after its storefront was vandalized. The Beijing Garden had its window broken and had garbage scattered across the front of the restaurant. According to their Facebook page, they say that incident occurred late Sunday night or early Monday morning. The restaurant does ask anyone with information to contact police. A fire in Wayne County killed 2 people this morning. Neighbors say a couple in their 80s lived at that home. At least 6 departments responded to the house, along with the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. There's no word on the names of the people who lived at that home. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. A tanker truck carrying propane bursts into flames in Queens. That fiery explosion took place on an expressway exit ramp just after midnight. This footage, taken by cell phone from a nearby balcony, shows that vehicle engulfed in flames. New York City police say a 36-year-old male truck driver may have slid on black ice before losing control. That crash caused the semi to flip on its side. According to police, that driver refused medical treatment on the scene, and no other injuries were reported. The U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis could be facing a major cheating scandal. Hundreds of the students at the academy have received an incomplete grade on a physics test. The institution says it is now reviewing, quote, potential inconsistencies with final exams submitted earlier this month. The academy is not elaborating about those inconsistencies. That physics course is part of the core curriculum at the academy, and that exam was taken by some 650 sophomores. This review comes after reports of a cheating scandal involving 73 cadets at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. Still ahead tonight, surveys show more Americans plan to get the COVID-19 vaccine, but distrust still remains in some of the communities hit hardest by the virus.
The Black community, communities of color, we cannot sit on the sideline whereby other communities don't, and they receive the added protection of the vaccine.
White health experts worry that communities of color that have been hit hardest by the virus may choose not to get protected from it.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Attar. Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Kim Walker with your weather update. High pressure will be anchored to our southeast tomorrow, and that will allow for a little bit warmer conditions to return by the end of the day on Wednesday and into your Thursday. Dry conditions for your Wednesday. We'll see plenty of sunshine. Temperatures will remain relatively cool. However, on Christmas Eve, we are expecting those temperatures to be on the rise. In fact, it will be about 20 degrees above normal. And then as a cold front comes in, those temperatures will be plummeting. And so any precipitation that we have on the roadways, that could refreeze. So just definitely be careful of icy conditions as we head into your Christmas Day if you're traveling. So this is the situation. We have a low pressure system moving in from the Midwest. It will start to move to the northeast. Initially, we're going to be on the warm side of it. So all the precipitation will fall as rain on Thursday. And then by Friday, as that low moves away, it will pull colder air toward the Twin Tiers. And as it does so, that precipitation will be switching over to snow. So our future radar is showing around 6 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. There will be a few isolated showers, possibly just south of Ithaca. Nothing reported in Elmira or Corning at that time, but then moving along to around noontime on Thursday. It looks like a few showers could be possible near Hornell and Bath and just to our north in Watkins Glen, and maybe even portions of Chemung County. We could see a few isolated showers as well, and this will increase in the afternoon. In fact, there could be some heavy rain in the afternoon with a few thunderstorms by 6 o'clock. So notice from Hornell to Bath, the yellow that's showing up, there could be some heavy rain there, Corning as well, and Elmira getting in on the action. And it looks like all that heavy rain will be starting to shift to the east. Noted orange, some orange showing up. And so I'm expecting places in Steuben and also Schuyler and Chemung County. Some heavy rain could be possible around midnight on Friday. And then all this will be shifting to the east. Colder air moves in, and so the precipitation will be changing over to snow at around 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday. So there could be a few flurries as we head into your Christmas Day. As far as rainfall, when we talk about heavy rain, what are we talking about? Possibly about 1.5 inches possible in Elmira, 1.25 inches in Corning. There will be areas that could pick up close to around 2 inches of rain. So again, heavy rain possible on Thursday, switching over to a frozen precipitation by Christmas Day. Tonight, dropping down to around 21 degrees, highs tomorrow around 38 degrees in Elmira, 40 degrees in Corning. And here's a look at your 7-day forecast, warming up into the 50s on Thursday. Rain falling and getting a little bit heavy on Thursday night into Friday. That will be switching over to snow over the weekend. That cold air will stick around.
More Americans say they plan to get the COVID-19 vaccine based on 2 recent surveys, but vaccine distrust is still out there. And health experts worry that communities of color, which have been particularly hard hit by the virus, may choose not to get the vaccine. Mandy Gaither has more in today's Health Minute.
Americans are expressing less reluctance about getting the COVID-19 vaccine based on 2 recent surveys.
CDC poll this week, more than 8 in 10 Americans say they plan to take the vaccine. And Kaiser today announced 70%. So just vaccine confidence is surging.
But the numbers are lower within the Black community. Blacks and Hispanics are more likely to get infected, more likely to be hospitalized, and more likely to die from COVID-19 than whites. A new survey from the Kaiser Family Foundation found 35% of Black adults said they probably or definitely would not get vaccinated.
The Black community, communities of color, we cannot sit on the sideline whereby other communities don't, and they receive the added protection of the vaccine. That's only going to worsen our outcomes.
47% of Black adults who say they won't get vaccinated cite distrust in vaccines in general, while 50% are worried they will contract COVID-19 from the vaccine. Among those speaking out to counter misinformation and distrust in the community, Dr. Leon McDougall, president of the National Medical Association.
I highly recommend that we, when our turn comes up for the vaccine, that we receive the vaccine.
Congress has finally passed a new stimulus deal, which includes paying $600 to Americans earning less than $75,000. Many say this help is, well, past due. Indira Esquiva has more.
Car after car lined up for a box of food to have on holiday tables in Wayne County. People like Teresa Carter, who lost her job 6 weeks ago.
This is holidays, you know what I'm saying? Look at the people out here. This is ridiculous.
Carter is one of many we spoke to who said a $600 stimulus payment will help with a bill or two, but not more.
It would be just to pay the rent. That it would not help with food or gas or car payment.
When people need all the help they can get. That's why we in this long line now trying to get the food that we can get.
The 3-in-1 Family Center organized the drive. Founder Gregory Quick says this is the worst he's ever seen it. Is $600 enough to help the families out here today?
No, because that money is already spent. Basically, for those that have been affected by the pandemic, lots of times their bills are behind.
His wife, Cassandra Quick, says people are running out of options.
Kind of brings about a shame because they did everything right, and they thought never will I be in line to this.
Delivery drivers are busier than ever. With the increase in online orders and the holidays being here, they're just swamped. So one Virginia neighborhood wanted to say thank you to their UPS driver, and they did so with cheers. Tracy Sears reports.
In this quaint Midlothian neighborhood, giving back isn't unusual. But giving thanks in this special way is something new.
Anthony, the awesome UPS driver.
Our UPS driver, Anthony, is the most kind and caring delivery person I've ever met.
Anthony Gaskin drives this route through Halsley almost every day.
He waves at me and I wave back.
In many ways, he's become like family.
I joked with him back in
June that I was going to add him to my Christmas card list because I actually do see him more than family.
He's, always stopping, saying, hi, how are you? How is your mom? How is your dad?
It's just what many say they've needed over the past year.
The kindness that he spreads is just unreal, and especially during this difficult time, to have Anthony around is just, it's truly amazing.
His overall personality and demeanor is so contagious that he was just like what we needed in 2020.
This sentiment inspired Patty Friedman to send an email to her neighbors.
Just in my own situation of kind of feeling lonely and trying to get my feet on the ground, that he was bringing such joy into my life.
Together, they came up with a plan to line the streets and thank the humble man who's made 2020 a little brighter.
Watching the video footage, I have watched it probably way too many times. I've sobbed many tears just watching it because he is such an amazing person. His smile is infectious.
Apparently, Anthony's story has had a similar impact around the world. On the CBS 6 page alone, it's reached more than 35 million people.
It was meant to be. It was going to happen one way or the other.
Not shocking to Anthony's own colleagues and friends.
But we all felt the same way.
And the community he so graciously serves.
I didn't think he would be that emotional, but when it almost teared me up a little bit when I saw him. I was like, yeah, you definitely deserve it in every way.
Like so many things in 2020, the New Year's celebration at New York's Times Square is going to be different. Jeremy Roth explains in today's Take a Look at This.
2021 has finally arrived. It's here. Well, the numbers, not the year. The year's most anticipated set of numerals was welcomed with open arms to New York City's Times Square, where officials lit them up to give a preview of what's expected to be a very different-looking New Year's celebration in Manhattan. The sign was driven more than 5,000 miles through 15 states ahead of its reveal. Unlike in many years past, the normally uber-crowded Times Square will only welcome less than 100 select guests for this year's big event. Doctors, nurses, teachers, grocery store employees, and transit workers will be invited to enjoy the moment from socially distant pens. Everyone else will have to watch the Big Apple bid 2020 good riddance from their homes. What can you say? 2020 has not exactly been, it sucked, okay? Well, I think we can all agree. But there are still stories to put a smile on your face, like this one from Oregon, where a mail carrier and a toddler have become an unlikely dancing duo gone viral. Every morning, 3-year-old Ava waits for the mail to arrive, and when it does, carried by USPS employee Ian Simon, that's when the daily dance party begins. It's a tradition that's been going strong for a couple of years and has even gone viral thanks to TikTok videos like this one shared by the family. And even though the pandemic has forced a window to cut in, Simon says his dance partner is just as lively as ever.
She gets so excited. It's amazing. Love my job.
For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. A restaurant server in North Carolina calls it a blessing. A complete stranger left him a $1,000 tip. Server Johnny Holloway says he and the man connected after Holloway told him he went to Morehouse College. And that was it. Holloway says he is going to put most of the tip into savings and take it out at another time when he really needs it. He says what happened to him should show that there are so many good people out there. And although a server never knows who's going to tip well, he says you have to treat everyone as though they could. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.